So we're going to focus today's class on uh, working around crow pose because it's one that I really love working with. But we are going to approach this class from the perspective of the idea of the rebound effect, which we've talked about quite a lot before, but it's that idea of when you ground down and you kind of root into your foundations. And as you do that, you get a sense of rising up, of lifting up. So it's a really good reminder for us that sometimes in order to, some people call it the idea of rooting to rise. In order to kind of rise up, to lift up, we have to find our foundations first. We have to root down. We have to sometimes in some way slow down and become a bit steady before we can leap off into the next thing that we're doing. And so we're going to start by just coming to lying on your mats. So find a comfortable position and just close your eyes for a few moments. So you can bring your one hand to your belly, one hand to your chest, or you can have your hands by your side, however you're comfortable. Just closing your eyes, start to tune into your breath. And when we're thinking about rooting down to rise up and finding our foundation, our breath is that anchor. It's the one thing that really brings us back to our foundation. It can have a grounding and a calming effect on us. So connecting into your breath or reconnecting with your breath at the start of your practice is really key to helping you do that. So as you're lying here, just notice how your body is moving with your breath. You might notice your shoulders rising and falling. You might notice your chest or your belly moving. So you don't have to change anything. Just notice what's going on. And then perhaps see if as you breathe in, you can let your belly rise, your chest rise, and everything expand. And as you breathe out, see if you can let everything soften and release a little bit. So breathing in, there's a sense of expanding. Breathing out, there's a sense of releasing back down. And if your mind starts to wander off at this point, try and bring it back to just noticing your breath, tuning into your breath. And then you can let go of that focus, that real awareness of your breath, but we'll just start to get a little bit of movement. So you can bend your knees up. Take your feet to the ground and we'll go through a few moving bridges. So as you inhale, lift your hips, reaching your arms overhead, hips up. Exhaling to come back down, bringing your arms by your side. So just moving like that a few times with your breath, inhaling to lift up. Arms overhead, exhale to come back down, arms by your side. So rooting into your feet. Inhale to lift, reach the arms overhead. Notice how the more you press into your feet, the more you ground, the higher or the more lift you get. Exhale to come back down and just hug your knees in. Maybe even rock a little bit from side to side. And then thinking about crow pose. So in crow pose, our legs are kind of, our knees are in this position on our arms. So we can come into happy baby pose, and where we're holding onto our feet, so holding onto the outside edges of your feet, as if you're walking on the ceiling. Just start to draw your knees down towards your shoulders. So you're opening your hips in a similar way to what you will need to when we maybe come towards crow pose later. Let your shoulders relax. Just notice where you're feeling this. Breathing into that space in your body. And then bringing your feet back down again. Take a little rock from side to side. Rolling yourself over will come up to sitting. and find a comfortable seated position. So again, thinking about that idea of rooting to rise up. So grounding into your sitting bones. Notice the difference. If you don't root, if you don't ground down, you might find your shoulders just drop here, your body kind of collapses. Whereas the more you press into the sitting bones, the more you kind of root down, the taller you become. So let your shoulders relax. And then inhaling, find that length up through your spine. As you exhale, root down, let everything kind of flow down your body into the ground. But try not to let your body collapse. So inhale to lengthen up, try and keep that length. Exhale, let everything sink down, almost like you're being stretched in two opposite directions. So inhaling to length up, but then you're carrying on lifting, but at the same time exhaling, you're grounding down. Keep that length, and then exhale, just let everything release. So take your arms out by your side. As you inhale, start to reach your arms up, reaching towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring your arms back down, taking your hands by your side. Inhaling to reach up again. And then exhale, taking your arms slowly back down. One more time, inhale to reach your arms up, stretching up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, take your arms all the way back down. So trying not to, again, collapse, just keeping that length. So keep your right hand on the ground. Inhale to reach your left arm up. Exhaling to lean over to the right. Inhale to come back up, swapping sides. Exhaling to lean over to the left. Let your right shoulder release. Inhale to come back up, sweeping around to your right to take a little twist. Again, try not to collapse, so lengthening up through the spine, keeping that length as you twist on your exhale. Inhale back to the center, and you can reach your arms up here if you want to. Exhale, turning the opposite way. And then inhale back to the center, and just take your arms behind you. So roll your shoulders back, try and lift your chest up. And then push yourself, or bring your hands, forwards, wriggling the fingers forward. And then slowly walk your hands all the way back up. So take your hands in front of you. We'll push ourselves up to all fours. And before we start to move our bodies, we'll just get a sense again of that grounding, that kind of connecting into your foundations and how different that makes you feel. So if you let everything collapse, you'll notice your shoulders kind of collapse here, your shoulder blades kind of wing together, and your back sinks or arches, your belly sinks towards the ground. So this isn't very stable for us. It's not very stable across our shoulders. And if you come into this position in something like crow pose, you'll find you're just kind of collapsing and you don't have much strength. So the more you press down into your hands, if you just notice, press into the hands, you don't have to actively lift up in order to get that lift. If you just push the hands down, you're naturally finding you're lifting through the space between your shoulder blades. You're activating across your shoulder girdle, even engaging slightly through the belly. So to get that sense of pressing into your hands. And then from here, pressing into your feet, into your knees, you might want to start to gently arch the back. So you breathe in, gently round the back as you breathe out. Just slowly moving through the spine, waking it up, inhaling to arch, exhaling to round. Keep rooting into your hands, into your knees, into your feet. Inhaling to arch, exhaling to round your back. Couple more times, inhaling to arch, exhaling to round your back. Once more, inhale to arch your back. Draw your shoulders back, exhale to round your back. And back slowly to a flat back. Keep that, again, lift, slight tone to your belly. So take your right leg out and just turn the toes to point down, drop your right hip, keep pressing into your hands, lifting through the space between your shoulder blades. As you breathe in, extend. As you breathe out, draw the knee towards your right shoulder, right elbow. Breathe in, extend the foot back out. Breathe out, draw the knee towards the right elbow. Breathe in, extend the foot back out. If this feels too hard, just stay on all fours with the knees down. If you can, do one more, knee to the elbow. And then inhale to extend back out, holding here. So noticing now again, if you push into your hands, into your left knee, you'll find instead of collapsing, there's more of a lift between the shoulder blades. So take the right knee back down, swap sides, extend your left leg out, point the toes down, try and lift through the space between your shoulder blades. So exhale, draw your left knee towards your left elbow. Inhale, extend the leg out. Exhale the knee towards the left elbow. Inhale the leg back out. Again, rest if you need to, just bringing the leg down. Or a couple more times, knee to the elbow. Inhale the leg out. Exhale one more time, knee to the left elbow. Inhale the leg out. So take your knee back down, tuck your toes under, and just lift your knees so they're just hovering. So from here, start to lift your sitting bones. Keep the knees a bit bent. Maybe start to straighten one leg. Maybe straighten the other. Walking through your legs slowly. And then just lift through your sitting bones. Begin to bring your heels down. Maybe moving a bit with your breath. So inhaling to lift slightly. Exhale, root into your hands. Really push the ground away. Inhale one more time to lift. Exhale, press your hands into the mat. Really root through the base of your index fingers and thumbs. Notice how that pushes you back a bit more. That gives you a sense of stability here. And then looking forwards, shift your weight forwards and either come to plank or lower to your knees. Either come through chaturanga or just lower your body gently to the ground. So inhale to lift up to cobra or upward facing dog. Roll your shoulders down. In fact, we'll all come to cobra actually. So spread your fingers, press your hands down and imagine you're squeezing your thumbs towards each other, squeezing your elbows in towards you. Keep pressing into your feet. Seeing if you can maybe lift a bit more, but trying not to let the shoulders roll up. So draw the shoulders down. Exhale to come back down. Push yourself back up. Tuck your toes under. Take another downward facing dog. Again, have a little walk out through your legs. And then looking forwards, just step or hop your feet up to the front of your mat. Lift your chest to look forwards. Exhale to fold into your legs. Inhale, reaching your arms all the way up. And exhale to take your hands back down. So coming back to standing, taking your feet to about hips width apart. And we'll go through a few sun salutations. So just warming our body up. So as we come to standing to Tadasana or mountain pose, again, get that sense of grounding. So you can lift your toes, spread them out wide, bring them back down. So you're pressing into your big toes, your little toes, your heels. Really root down into your feet, lift your shoulders, roll them back and down. And again, you can notice the difference. If you just let everything just flop, you don't stand as tall. Whereas if you press, if you root down, automatically you're lengthened, you're lifting. And there's a sense of strength, of stability, of lightness. And all of that comes from just rooting, from grounding into your feet. So from here, inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale to fold forwards, bring your hands to wherever they reach. Inhaling, lift your chest, look forwards. As you exhale, step or hop your feet to the back of your mat to come to plank. So you can either lower to your knees and your belly or shift your weight forward slightly, lower through chaturanga. Inhale to cobra, or come all the way up to upward facing dog. And just again, watch your shoulders. So try and roll the shoulders back. Press into your feet, into your hands to lift your chest. And you can lower the knees if you want to, tuck your toes under. Exhale back to downward facing dog. So you may want to stay still here, or you may want to come back to your breath. Lifting as you breathe in, pressing back as you breathe out. And a couple more times, inhaling to lift, exhaling to release back. Once more, inhale to lift, exhale to release back. Looking forwards, inhale to step or hop your feet up. Exhale to release down into your legs. Inhale to come all the way up, reaching your arms up. And exhale, taking your hands back down. So once more, inhale your arms up. Exhale to fold forwards. Inhale to lift your chest and look forward. Exhale to step or hop your feet back. Coming down to your knees and your belly or through chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale back to downward facing dog. So just coming to your breath. And maybe staying still here if you've been moving. Spread the fingers. Really imagine you're trying to push the ground away. So again, you can notice the difference if you let the hands release and kind of go a bit floppy, or if you push into the hands. And then looking forwards, inhale to step or hop your feet up. Lifting your chest, exhale to fold into your legs. Inhaling to come all the way up and exhaling to take your hands back down. So coming back to stand, noticing how your body feels now, noticing your breath. Maybe taking a couple of moments again to just reach down into your feet. Let your shoulders release. And then we'll take the feet together or even a tiny bit apart, if that feels more comfortable for you. And you're going to come down into a chair pose. So send your thighs back, hips back. Imagine you're sitting on a chair in front of you. Reach your arms up. And if this is uncomfortable on your shoulders, bring your hands down. Otherwise, reach through your arms. Roll the shoulders back, stretch out through your fingers. Watch if you're arching into your lower back. See if you can lift the belly slightly. Tiny little tilt of the pelvis. Maybe come a bit lower. Inhale to straighten up. Exhale to fold forward. Inhaling, lifting your chest. Exhaling, stepping or jumping your feet back. Coming to plank or lowering to your knees, either taking chaturanga or coming gently down. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale back to downward facing dog. And then looking forwards, lower to your left knee, step your right foot in between your hands. So sink down into your hips here. As you inhale, start to straighten your right leg. Just breathing into the back of that leg. Notice if your back starts to round, try and draw your chest forwards. Exhale to fold towards that right leg. Slowly, gently breathing into the back of the leg. And then bend the knee. So sink back into your hips here. Reaching your arms up. Let your shoulders relax. Keep sinking down into your hips. Draw that right hip back. So stretching up. So notice your right foot here. If it's starting to kind of wobble, see if you can press more into the right foot. Keep your left foot tucked under. So you can either stay here with the knee down or start to lift your left knee. Bend the right knee again. Try and straighten that left leg. Draw the right hip back and then bring the shoulders back as much as you can over your hips. And again, reach your arms up. So to get that stability, that sense of grounding, press into your feet. And then imagine you're scissoring your legs, or you're kind of squeezing your feet towards the center line. Breathing here. Taking another couple of breaths. And then just reaching forwards, Slowly take a breath and then bring your hands all the way back down. So from here, wiggle your right foot towards the edge of your mat. You can lower your left knee and we'll come into a lizard pose. So you might want to turn the right foot out a little bit. Take your right hand to the inside of the foot and just start to sink into your hips here. So this might be enough for you. You might want to tuck the left foot out or under, whichever you prefer. This might be enough for you staying up high. You might want to grab a block and just pop your hands on a block here. Or you might be able to come down onto your forearm, but with your forearm on a block. Or you might be able to lower down onto both forearms. So just do what you can, noticing in whichever position you're in, if your right knee starts to roll out a little bit, turn the toes out slightly as well. So breathing into that right hip. Taking another breath here. Let that right hip sink, but actively draw the left hip back. And then coming back up. Spread your fingers. See if you can step your right foot back. So if you can, come to plank. If you need to, bring your knees down and think again about grounding. So noticing the difference. If you don't ground into your hands and your feet, you kind of sink here. If you push through the feet, imagine you're pushing your heels out, pressing into your hands, you get that stability. So wherever you are, lower to the ground, chaturanga, or to your knees and your belly. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Tuck your toes under. Exhale back to downward facing dog. Looking forward, step or hop your feet up. Exhale to fold all the way down into your legs. Let your body just hang here. And then inhale, come all the way back up. Reach your arms up. Exhale to take your hands back down. So again, just taking your feet either together or a tiny bit apart, and we'll come back once more into chair pose. So send your hips back, reach your arms up, slight lift through the belly, squeezing through your thighs. Inhale to straighten your legs. Exhale to fold into your legs, releasing, rooting into your heels, lifting through the sitting bones. So inhale, lift your chest up. And then as you exhale, we'll just step the right foot back. This time, lower the knee, sink down into your hip. Start to straighten that left leg. Draw your left hip back, draw your chest forwards, release the shoulders. Begin to fold into your leg, into your left leg. Just noticing your breath here. Maybe see if you can fold a bit more, just watching if the back starts to round. And then bend the left knee, sink down into your hips here. Start to reach your arms up. Draw your right hip forwards, draw your left hip back. Sink into your hip. And then either stay here or tuck the right foot under. So lifting up, bend your left knee, extend through your right heel. So if this feels too much, keep the right knee on the ground. But if you can, stay up high, keep extending out through your right heel, hugging or scissoring your thighs towards, so when I say the midline, if you drew a line through the center of your mat, you're kind of drawing your feet and your legs towards that line. Take another couple of breaths here. Press down into your feet, reach up. Notice how even if you're staying still, there's a constant movement. So you're never completely still. We never stay completely still. We're constantly moving slightly. Maybe sinking a little bit, maybe lifting up a little bit, maybe releasing the shoulders, maybe extending a bit more through the right heel, maybe drawing the left hip back a bit. Always moving. So then take your hands back down, lower your right knee. We'll come into lizard pose on the other side. So just turn your left foot out slightly maybe. Start to sink down into your hips here. And then begin to bend your elbows to however much it feels right for you. This might be enough. You might want blocks. You might be able to come down just onto your right forearm. You might be able to bring your left forearm down. Breathing gently. Noticing if you're sinking to the right, try and press your hips over to the left a little bit. A few breaths here. And then slowly coming up, step that left foot back. So just come back to all fours. Get a little movement through your spine. Inhale to arch your back. Exhale to round your back. Reconnect to your foundation. So press into your hands, into your knees, into your feet. Again, notice the difference between not grounding and grounding. Maybe play with it a couple of times, let everything kind of relax, and then ground into the feet, into the knees, into the hands, really push them down. Feel that stability through your body. Even, you might feel it even in your core, in your belly. And then again, tuck your toes under. Lift your knees. Stretch yourself back to a downward facing dog. Take another breath here and then looking forwards. Step your feet up. Exhale to fold into your legs. Bend your knees one more time and we'll come through a chair pose. So sit back. See if you can maybe sit a bit lower. Try and keep that slight tone to the belly. Slight grip through your thighs. And then inhale to come all the way up. Exhaling to take your hands back down. So again, come back to mountain pose, to standing, Tadasana. Just let your body kind of recalibrate. Root down into your feet. Let the shoulders release. And then step your right foot back, left foot forwards. Sorry, right foot forwards, left foot back. So right foot forwards, bend your right knee. Turn your left foot in line with the short side of your mat. Just bend or sink into your hips here. Try not to let that right knee collapse, the left knee, collapse. So keep pressing into the outside edge of the left foot. Watch your shoulders don't sink out forwards here. So draw the shoulders back so your shoulders are lined up over your hips. Reach out through your fingers. Try and keep the arms level. And then turn your gaze over your right hand. Come down into warrior two. So legs nice and strong here. Really, again, the warrior poses, the standing poses are really good for bringing us back to grounding, back to our foundation. As you press down into the feet, imagine you're trying to lift them off the mat. So you might get a sense of what we sometimes call pada bandha. So bandhas are like our locks, our energy locks, and pada means foot. So pada bandha is like our foot lock almost, but it links all the way up through our pelvic floor and our root lock, and it kind of helps to give us this sense of, as we ground down, of lifting up from the arches of our feet all the way through our legs, through our belly, even up through the body to the top of the head. So from here, start to straighten your front leg. Maybe wiggle your left foot in a little bit. We'll come into a Trikonasana or a triangle pose. So reaching forwards, take that right hand down, roll your left shoulder back, reach your left hand straight up towards the ceiling. And then again, notice your feet. So rather than collapsing here, press through the outside edge of your back foot, press through the big toe of your front foot. And again, get a sense of pressing down, but lifting up, drawing everything back up in towards the center, and then rotating through the upper body, reaching your top arm straight up and maybe looking towards that hand. Try not to let the shoulders crunch up. Take another breath here. Keep active in your feet. Notice if you don't activate the feet, if you don't push, you feel it more. It's tighter, it's harder. Inhale to come all the way back up. So turn your feet the opposite way. Press into the outside edge of your right foot, bend your left knee. Coming into warrior two on the other side. Reach your arms out, let your shoulders relax. Gazing over your front hand. So nice and strong and stable in our foundations. Almost exhaling to root down and inhaling to lift and draw everything back up. Perhaps even coming back to that breath like we did when we were sitting at the beginning. Inhaling to find length, keeping that length as you exhale, grounding everything down. Imagine your breath ascending it out through your feet. Take another few breaths here. Reaching out, shining that breath out through your fingers even. And then inhale to straighten your front leg. Reaching over that leg, bring the hand down. Roll your right shoulder back. Reach your right hand straight up towards the ceiling. Keep pressing into the big toe of your front foot, outside edge of your back foot. Inhale to reach, exhale to ground a bit more. Another breath. And then inhale to come all the way back up. So turn your feet to parallel and just walk your feet in a little bit. And we'll come into a goddess pose or a wide squat. So you'll want your feet a bit wider than your shoulders, toes turned out. Inhale to lift your arms up, palms together. Exhale to come down gently. Hips nice and open. Maybe even I quite like to rock from one side to the other a little bit here. Do what you can, come as low as it feels comfortable for you. Come back up if it feels too much. Press down into your feet. Inhale to come back up. Reach your arms up. Exhale to come back down. Watch you're not collapsing through your chest, so try and bring the shoulders back, hip bones slightly lifted, and shoulders stacked as much as you can over your hips. Maybe see if you can come a bit lower, really pressing into your feet here. Inhale to come up. One more time, exhale to come back down. Again, just do what you can. If it feels too much, rest this one out. Otherwise, take one more go. Let the shoulders relax. Try and bring the chest lifted, shoulders back. And then inhale to come all the way back up. Reaching your arms up. Exhaling your hands back down and walking your feet in together. So we're going to come into a tree pose, the ultimate pose for grounding. So take the weight into your right foot, bend your left leg, open the leg out to the side, bring the foot to your ankle or your calf or your thigh. So wherever it feels comfortable for you, and just watch you're not collapsing here. So push that right thigh in towards your left foot. Kind of let that left hip release. Let the thigh or the knee roll back. And then root down, press down into your right foot. You can have your hands at your heart here, or reach the arms up, let your shoulders soften. So notice the difference. If you don't ground, if you don't collapse, if you don't push into your standing foot, you kind of sink here, collapse. And that's standing foot wobbles a little bit like this. Whereas the more you press really firmly into the big toe, the little toe, the heel, the straighter you can't become, the taller you're standing, and the less that standing foot is wobbling. When you reach your hands up as if you're trying to touch the ceiling, reaching as high as you can. we wobble far less. Take another few breaths here. And then bring your hands back down. Bring the left knee down. Have another little walk out through your legs. Take the weight into your left foot. Bring the right foot in towards your ankle, your calf, or your thigh, pushing your foot and leg towards each other. So rooting into your standing foot. Again, hands to your heart, or reaching your hands up. Let your shoulders release. Grounding into your standing foot, reaching up through the top of your head, through your fingers. Thinking about maybe what lesson can tree pose give us? Or how can we take this into our day today? This idea of grounding down, rooting down, and how much more, how stable we feel. Maybe you might not, but you might feel a bit more stable the more you press down into that standing foot, the more you really stretch up. Let the shoulders relax, moving everything in towards the center, and then taking your hands back down, bringing the knee down. Have a little walk out through your legs. So come to standing, and just bringing your feet about hips width apart. So turning the toes out, turning the heels in, and we're going to come down into a squat, a malasana here. And we do this quite a lot when we come into crow pose because it's a really good one for preparing our hips. So lift your arms up as you breathe in, breathing out, coming down gently to wherever it feels comfortable for you. And you might be able to come to here. You might find you're about here. So just do what you can. Press the arms into the knees, lift up through your chest. Try not to collapse here. And then inhale to come all the way up. Lift your arms. Exhale to take your hands back down. So one more time, going through the same thing. So inhaling to lift your arms. Exhaling to come back down. Rolling your shoulders back, lifting up through your chest. And then from here, we'll bring our hands down and we're going to have a little play with our crow pose. So thinking about getting your knees up as high as you can to the tops of your arms. Bring your hands about shoulder width apart, if not a tiny bit wider. Spread your fingers. Press into the base of your index fingers and thumbs, much like you've been doing in downward facing dog. And then just lift your bum up a bit. So your knees are still connected to your arms, to the tops of your arms. So you don't want to come up to here. You want the knees still on the arms, and then just start to shift your weight forwards. Just rocking backwards and forwards until maybe your feet just hover off the ground for a second. Don't jump. You just want to be keeping your legs where kind of in the same position. But the only thing that's maybe changing is that your body is moving forward, so naturally your feet are lifting. Then from there, get that sense of really pressing into the hands. So you can feel the difference across your shoulder blades, really press through the hands, and then maybe see if you can just lift one foot up. Squeeze that heel towards your bum, swap sides, and then maybe that might be enough for you, or maybe see if you can keep pressing into your hands and maybe lift both feet. So from here, try not to pour all the weight down into your hands. See if you can get that sense of grounding, of pressing into the hands to lift up. So there's a sense of a lift. So have a couple of goes with this, just exploring it yourself. Just making sure you're going kind of gently, you're not forcing it, just letting your body do what it needs to do without judgment. So if you don't get your feet off the ground, that's not a problem. You're still working, you're still breathing, you're still focusing, you're still grounding. So spreading the fingers, lifting the sitting bones, maybe just going 1 foot at a time, maybe lifting both feet. Keep looking ahead of you, not down. Maybe getting that sense of grounding into your hands to lift up. Keep breathing. And even lifting up through your core, through your belly as you're pressing down. So when you've had enough, you can pause this if you want to have a longer play. Otherwise, when you've had enough, we'll come back down to sitting. Just give your wrists a little rotation one way and then the other way. Maybe even just wriggling your fingers, interlinking your fingers, and you can kind of make a little wave with your hands. Maybe press the palms away. And I find this one quite uncomfortable, but some people find it really easy. If you come back up to all fours, turn your hands so your fingers are pointing. It's the kind of fingers turn away from you and then towards you, so your wrists are facing away, and then just stretching across the wrists, leaning back. So you might find this easier. I find this really uncomfortable. But it's a good stretch out for the wrists when you've been doing things like crow pose. And then you can bring the hands the opposite way and just, so the tops of the hands are pressing down, and just push into the hands here. And then take the hands out in front and stretch it back into child's pose. Let your forehead rest on your mat. Give your body a little rest here. So coming back to your breath. Maybe wiggling the fingers forwards, maybe releasing your shoulders back, so lengthening out through the spine into quite an active child's pose, or maybe just letting your elbows bend a bit here, letting your shoulders release. And then from here, when you're ready, walk your hands up and we'll take them behind us. So in crow pose, even though we want to be opening our chest a bit, we often find our shoulders round, and there's quite a lot of tension across our chest in this position. So if we bring our hands behind our back, we can start to open our chest up a bit here. So roll the shoulders back, lift your chest up. So my fingers are pointing away from me. And you can stay here in this position, or you can start to lift your hips up. You might want to come up onto your fingertips here to lift a bit higher. That's like a variation of a camel pose. Releasing back down, and you can stay with either of these versions, or you can come up into a kind of full camel pose if you want to. So knees and feet are about hips width apart. Hips pressing forwards, bring your hands back onto your lower back, elbows hugging in. Either stay here, remembering to ground into your foundation. So this makes a huge difference here. If you let your knees and your legs relax, you really find it pushes into your lower back. If you start to almost hug your thighs towards each other as if there was a big block or a ball between your thighs, and your glutes start to engage slightly, that takes a lot of pressure off your lower back. So roll your shoulders back. You can stay here, or you can tuck the toes under, bring your hands onto your heels, or you can tuck the toes out, bring your hands onto your heels. So wherever you are, try and not to lean back too far. So if you imagine there is a wall in front of you, you want to press your thighs into that wall imaginary wall. Roll the shoulders back and lift the chest up. So come to whichever variation feels better for you. Maybe let the head go all the way. I don't like to do that, so I kind of like to look to almost like where the ceiling and the wall meet, rather than right up at the ceiling. And then inhale to come all the way back up, sitting back into your heels and releasing over your legs back into a child's pose. And just resting here again for a few moments. And then walking your hands back in, we'll come to sitting. And just bend your right knee up. Left leg straight, left foot pointing up. Hug the right leg with your left arm, take the right hand behind you. So roll your right shoulder back, inhale to lengthen up through your spine, exhale, turn through your whole body to your right. Keep finding length as you breathe in, keep twisting gently as you breathe out. Try and let that right shoulder soften. Keep rooting into your standing foot, or your, not really standing, but your right foot. As you breathe out, maybe see if you can twist a bit more, remembering not to collapse. So still grounding here, really pressing down into your right hand. And then coming back to the center, twisting the opposite way. So bending the left leg up, take the left hand behind you, hug the left leg with your right arm, keep your right foot pointing up. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, turn gently through your whole body to your left. So finding length on your inhale, seeing if you can twist a bit more on your exhale. Keep breathing here. And then inhaling to come all the way back to the center. Straighten your legs out. Make sure you're sitting forwards on your sitting bones, toes pointing up. So again, coming back to sitting, to Dandasana this time. Let the shoulders relax. Notice the difference. Not grounding, grounding. Not grounding, grounding. So from here, lift the arms as you breathe in. Try and keep that length through the spine. Keep that activation in your legs. And as you exhale, reaching forwards, bring your hands to wherever they reach. Try not to collapse into your back here. So draw the shoulders back. Keep reaching forwards through your chest. And just noticing your breath. Maybe as you breathe out, see if you can fold in a bit more. Maybe you might want to use a strap around your feet. Just helps to lift your chest a bit more. Helps to keep that kind of shoulder blades back, length through the spine. So coming to wherever you feel comfortable. Taking another couple of breaths. And then slowly releasing. So coming back up, just walk yourself in, or your bottom in a little bit. And we'll come all the way down onto our backs again. One more time, hugging your knees in, taking a little rock from side to side. Noticing how your body feels now compared to the beginning of the class. It might feel quite tired. It might just feel like it's moved. And then take your feet down. We'll take a bridge. Rather than a moving bridge, we'll hold it this time. So press into your feet, lift your hips. Walk your arms together underneath you. And again, you can notice the difference. If you don't ground, you can see how low my hips are here. If I push into my feet, I don't have to actively lift my hips. If I'm actively lifting my hips here without grounding into my feet, Now I'm grounding my feet. There's a big difference. So really pushing through the heels. Imagine you're pushing your shins to the wall in front of you. Pressing into the tops of the arms. It kind of takes that weight out of your lower back. Makes you feel more stable, makes you feel stronger. Lifts you maybe a bit higher. Maybe even slightly hugging the thighs towards each other. So your glutes are active, ever so slightly. And then exhale when you're ready, releasing all the way back down. Again, hug your knees in, take a little rock from side to side. Maybe come back to happy baby. Taking hold of the outside edges of your feet, drawing the knees down towards your shoulders. Focusing on your breath here. As you breathe out, start to bring the knees back towards you a bit more. And then take your feet down and just let the knees open out slightly, coming into a supine lying Baddha Konasana. If it feels like you're kind of gripping, you're holding your knees up, pop a block underneath your thigh or thighs. So you've got something to release into, and it makes such a difference to that opening in the hips. Again, take a few breaths there. And then just bringing the knees together. You can take the feet out slightly, let the knees roll in for a moment. And then just let the knees and feet come together and let your knees roll all the way over to your right. Arms out wide, turning your gaze to your left. Breathing into the left side of your body. And don't even think about grounding now, just let everything go. Lifting your knees back up. Let them roll over to your left, turning your gaze to your right. Breathing into the right side of your body. Try and keep your shoulders grounded, or your shoulders touching the ground. And then lifting your knees back up, straighten your legs out in front of you. Finding your comfortable position for Shavasana. So making sure you're comfortable, grabbing a blanket if you want to, a pillow. Taking your feet maybe as wide as your mat, let the feet flop open. So your legs are softening here. Your hips are releasing. Closing your eyes maybe, bringing your hands by your side, or coming back to bringing your hands, one on your belly, one on your chest. So finding whatever works for you. And instead of really grounding here, just let the ground do the work now. So try and allow your body to release and let the ground support you. And if your mind starts to wander, try and ground or anchor your mind now by coming back to following your breath. And if you find just noticing the inhale and the exhale isn't really enough, then you can also count your breath. So just counting the length of each inhale, counting the length of each exhale, without trying to change anything, just using that counting as a bit of an anchor to ground your mind, to bring your mind back so that it's not wandering off. So use whatever technique works for you. Just give your mind a few moments of stillness. And those moments might be fleeting, they might be intermittent. But that's okay. Coming back to your breath, following that inhale and the exhale. And this time, with each exhale, really let your whole body soften. You don't have to root down and find length anymore. Just let everything go. Know that the ground is there to support you. And just notice how your body's feeling now at the end of your practice. Perhaps remembering that, yes, we feel more, or we are usually more stable, stronger when we ground into our foundations, when we find something to root into. From those roots, we're able to rise up, to grow up from there. But sometimes it's also good to just let everything go and just to release into being held by the ground around us. So taking a few more moments here, or taking as long as you want to in your Shavasana. And then when you're ready in your own time, just starting to get a little bit of movement through your body. Taking a few long deep breaths. Start to wriggle your fingers and toes. Maybe reaching your arms overhead, taking a big stretch. And when you're ready, hugging your knees in towards you. And slowly making your way up to sitting. Hope that you enjoyed that class and that it's given you some little things to think about when you're coming into your crow pose.